How you doing, guys?
All good.
Great. So Joe is here. Young is here. Andrew is here. Andres. Okay, so hopefully we'll have a little more students coming in. How's everyone doing? Are you being safe? Staying home?
Yeah, we're at home all day.
All
Tired of
right.
it.
You know, it's really tough, and it looks like, you know, this whole month will be like this. So hopefully, you know, things start getting better. But again, you know, we have to, you know, observe what the experts are telling us. So hopefully everything will be okay soon. Okay, so this is our last class before spring break. And usually Thursdays are like our lab time. But I'm just going to cover some more tools today, which will be helpful. Has anyone started working on the bottle label, the jam label?
I have not.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, kinda. I started like, I don't know, at least the fruit part.
Okay. So fruit is just one of the components. So I'm going to go over a few things today. Label making, you know, it can be, it's sort of a hybrid project between a regular graphic design project and package design, because labels usually go on packages. And so label making is, again, it's an art. And so every label can be different. I'll just make something for you guys today. And so it's going to give you some ideas, you know, how to set up. I'm going to start with something simple, okay? Simple in the sense that, let me just open a couple of files over here, then I'll share my screen. Got too many things open on my screen right now. Okay, I'm going to start with something simple, and then we are going to get into a little more elaborate stuff. Okay, now this is an image of somebody's drawing of Apple logo as well as Internet Explorer, Windows Internet Explorer logo. So usually I use in some of my classes use this for like pen tool exercises. So I'll just let's say that we want to create an Apple sticker. You know, it's a label. So what do you do is, first of all, you create your Apple drawing, and then how do you turn it into a label which the print shop can take, and you know, they can cut a die out of it. Okay, So that is the exercise, and that is something we are going to also do for the bottle label a little bit later on. So first of all, I need to trace the logo itself. Okay, so the easiest way to do is now, once again, this is just an image. This is a bitmap image, JPEG file, and we want to turn it into a vector drawing. So first of all, I will make sure that this image does not move. So I'll lock it. Command 2, remember Command 2 to lock. And then
Oh, we
I'll
can't
press,
see your screen.
you can't see my screen?
No.
Okay, let me see what's going on over here.
I can.
What do you see?
No, well, I saw it for a little bit and then it went away.
Hmm.
Okay, anyone else having any issues? Okay,
Okay, now I can see it. Yeah,
okay,
I know
okay.
what's going on.
Let me turn off sharing, and then I'll start again. So maybe that can help too. Okay. Okay. Now can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. Can you see the Apple logo, everyone?
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. So what I did was that this was an unlocked image. I selected that, command 2 to lock it. Press the P key on your keyboard to access the pen tool. Okay, you can grab the pen tool over here, but P is the shortcut. And then I need to trace this. Okay. So maybe this can be a good place to start. Click, drag to drag out your direction handles. Okay. So now I know that the next curve is not that wide. So I'm going to press my Option key and bring the direction handle a little bit inwards. So I can always come back and adjust that, but at this time I can also adjust it over here. So how far you pull the direction handle, that also adjusts the curve. Okay, now at this point, remember, we need to change the direction because my direction handle is going this way, and now I have to go the other way. So for that, I'll press the Option key, which gives me access to the change anchor point tool. So I can just click with that to break the handle. Then I can go to the next point and I can adjust the curve. Okay, so this looks like, this is not very even, so I'll have to go back. I'll do Command Z to undo this. And instead of breaking the handle, I'm going to Option and then drag this way. So I'm actually manually setting up the direction. Option and then, hey, you know what, instead of going this way, go this way. All right, and then I'll click on the next point. So now it's going to give me two handles, one on the previous anchor point and one over here. So while you are drawing, you can always go back, press the Option key. You can go and say, I want to adjust this handle. And I can adjust this handle. Okay, so I'm a little close over here. So once again, I need to change the direction. So Option, click, and then maybe somewhere over here. And Option, drag the direction handle a little smaller because the curve is a little smaller this time. So this time, if you notice that, with this exercise, you don't have the template to work with. Okay, so I'll just close this over here. And so I'm pretty close on this side. So now this is a closed shape. Command click anywhere outside to deselect that. And I can just complete the leaf over here. Option. Okay. So now I have a vector drawing of the logo. And let's say that we want this logo to be blue. Maybe this blue. Okay. And I'll just select this, copy this. Okay, let me just paste it over here. So this is our traced object, but again, I want to make this into a sticker. Okay, so how will the print shop know, how much, where they need to create the die? Will the die go all the way to the edges of the logo, or do we need to add some space around it? Okay, so for that reason, so what I'll do is, let's just take it to a new document. So just start fresh over here. Okay, I just pasted that in here. All right, so in this case, what I'll do is I'm just going to, first of all, select all and Command G to group so that I don't accidentally move the leaf somewhere else because it's a separate object. Okay. Now, secondly, I'm going to Command C to copy, Command F to paste in front. Okay, so basically I have two logos right now sitting on top of each other. So the one which is on top over here, I'm going to make a change to this and I'm going to add a stroke. Okay. And the stroke color, it doesn't matter at this point what color, but as long as we have a stroke going. Okay. Let's say it's about 6 points. I can go even bigger than that. Okay. Now this logo has some extra area around it. Now, I can't suggest that the edges of this extra area, the print shop can read that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this into another object. Okay, so with some extra room on top of that extra area. So I'm going to go to Object, and I will say Expand Appearance. Okay. So this is not going to work. So what I'll have to do is, well, let's see if it'll do it now. So expand. Yes. So when I'm going to expand this, so it is asking me, do you want to expand both fill as well as stroke? And I will just say yes, please do that. Okay. So now this whole thing has been expanded like another vector object. Even the stroke on top of that is part of the shape. Okay, so while it is still selected, remember we were looking at Pathfinder tools. So if I go to Window and choose Pathfinder, okay, these are the Pathfinder tools over here. And from here, if I choose unite. So when I unite, so this object, okay, this becomes, including the stroke and everything becomes like one object. Okay, so now the thing is that this is sitting on top of the other logo. If you notice, it is right down there. Let me do Command Z to undo this. So I want to take it behind that logo. Okay, so Command, Shift, and left bracket. So Command Shift left bracket will do what? It is going to take that object and put it all the way behind. Okay, but remember, we don't want this to be black over here. The reason why I created that new object was that if I go to View and Guides and choose Make Guides. Okay, so I usually use my keyboard shortcut, so that's why I was kind of, where that is. So Make Guides is Command 5. So when I do this, so this object which was black, so that's why I said it doesn't mean what color you're using. So this guide which Illustrator has created for you, it is similar to, remember when you drag out these guides, okay? So guides do not print, but you can use these guides to give instructions to your print shop that, hey, you know what? This is what the logo looks like, and when you are going to print, and after that, when you are going to use a die to cut this logo, so this is where you should cut. So in this case, I've given some bleed around the sticker so that the die doesn't cut too close to the. Okay, is it making sense?
Yeah.
All right. So keeping that in mind, so this was a simple shape. Okay, not quite simple, but still. Uh, but now you can see that you can create these guides. Now, guides can be created with any object. Okay, any shape. So let's just quickly, if I grab my pen tool, and if I create any kind of a shape. Okay, and any shape can be turned into a guide. So what you do is you select the object, go to View, and you go to Guides, and then choose Make Guides. Okay, so when you make guides, so now this is a guide, and by default it will be locked. Now you can't move it, it is just there for your guidance. Same thing we have done over here. Another thing you can also do is, let's say that if this was the, just delete that. If this was the logo, and where the guidelines are for the die, but if you also want to create let's say I just created a box with no fill to it, and if your artwork also need some crop marks, so where the image or you know like if Apple is giving away these stickers, they are not going to give a completely cut sticker, so it will have its own document size. So when print shop is going to print, it's going to print it on large sheets, like hundreds of them. So where should they crop? Okay, so for that, you are going to create a box, okay, with the rectangle tool, and you go to the effects menu and choose crop marks. Okay, and after choosing the crop marks, so you don't need any stroke on it, so you're going to nullify the stroke. And now if you look at this, so you have a sticker where you are also suggesting crop marks for the print shop, where to crop. Okay, so now they can take this whole thing and they can replicate that on their the screens and everything, and how they. So I'm not coming from print side, but as a graphic designer, so you can create stuff for the web, you can create for print, and so on. Okay, so this is how you're going to create a label and a die guide for your label for the bottle. Now earlier today I was also playing, let's see if I still have that document open somewhere. Let's see. Oops. Okay, yeah. So as we were talking about labels, so I just decided to do a quick label over here. So created a sort of a logo. Just zoom in over here, and something that can go on the jam bottle or something. Okay, this is all made up stuff over here. Grandma's gourmet preserves, homemade, and so whatever goes on the label. Now, if you notice that this pattern around the image, okay, so that is another thing I want to discuss today is, how can you create these type of borders, okay? So several ways to do that, and one of the ways to do this is to create your own brushes, okay? So what does that mean? That means is that you can actually create your own brush. So for example, we have a star. Okay. Draw a star over here. And we know that there are brushes. Okay, so from here we can choose a brush, we can paint with that and so on. So how do you do that? So let's say if I grab my paintbrush tool, okay, so if I want to apply a different brush, so if the stroke is still selected, if I click over here, I can apply a different kind of a brush to that. Okay, I hope you can see that very well. So let me just make it a little brighter. Okay, so there are different types of brushes available. So maybe a regular brush, maybe a brush that has texture for charcoal. There's another divider brush, which has these nice arrows and things. But these are some of the brushes that come with Illustrator. But how about if we want to create our own brush? Okay. But before I go there, just to let you know that some of these panels may have, you see right here, this icon, which looks like 3 books on the shelf. This is your library. So this is your brush library. And these are not the only brushes which are available. So Illustrator comes with, I would say, hundreds of different brushes over here. Okay. So image brushes, decorative brushes, Bristol brushes, borders. For example, if I choose any of the border brushes from here, border frames. Okay, so these are all border frame brushes. Okay, they will open up in their own panel. This is your brushes panel, and this is another set of panels. So let's say if I was doing a frame for a picture. Okay, so if this is the picture frame and I want it to look like a wood, so I can just take this brush and apply it to it. So all you have to do is just click and apply. So these brushes, let's try this one, or maybe this one. Okay, so these are some of the brushes which come with Photoshop. They are all, Illustrator, and they are all sitting in the brush library. How do you access the library? From the brushes panel, okay? But sometimes it becomes necessary that you can create a custom brush, okay? So how do we do that? So let's say that we have this star. Okay, I'll start with this and then we'll create some other brushes. Going to press the Shift key, just make it a little smaller. And I actually want to create a brush with stars. Okay, so I'll take this drawing and drag it into the brushes panel right here. Okay, see when I bring it over here, my cursor changes into a green plus sign next to it. So if I release now, so this dialog box will open up. So Illustrator is telling you, hey, you know what? You are going to create a brush now. So you are going to create a new brush, and there are different types of brushes you can create. There's a calligraphic brush, which is grayed out in this case, scatter brush, art brush, Bristol brush, pattern brushes. So in this case, I will say, hey, you know what? I just want to create a pattern brush. And say, okay. And then the pattern brush dialog box will open up, and this is where I can change my parameters, or if I have to flip vertical or flip horizontal, I can do that to the, but anyway, so I'm just going to go with the defaults for right now and say okay. So when I do this, now you can see that in my brushes panel, there's a new brush, okay? So now if I select this frame and apply a new brush to it, so here's a new brush applied, okay? So you can go even fancy, okay? So let's try one more. So we'll do something which I did in that label over here. So what I did was I created a little circle, okay? Filled it with color. Option drag a copy. Actually, let me make another copy, Command D. Okay, so duplicate. So I'll take this guy, just zoom in with the selection tool, and I can just make it a little bit smaller. And take this guy and make it even more smaller than that. Okay. And I'm going to bring them a little bit closer. Okay, so let's see if I zoom out, how big that is. Yeah, it's not that bad. So what I'll do is I'll just select everything over here, okay? And you can group it or just drag it over here. Okay, and this time I will say, you know what, I want to create a pattern brush. Okay, and say okay to this. And I will just say okay. Okay, so here's my pattern brush. So if I want to apply a pattern brush to, let's say, this rectangle. Okay, so here's the pattern brush which I just created over here. Can it be applied to a circle? Yeah, it can be applied to a circle. It will, I think it will do a better job, because in a rectangular, I might have to go and create these corners, okay? But in a circle, it works really fine, okay? So now I showed you, very quickly how to create custom brushes, okay? So we just created pattern brush, but if I take the same artwork and create a brush which is not a pattern brush, but it's an art brush. So once again, I'm going to drag this over here. Let's try creating an art brush and say okay. So for the art brush, you know, I can set the direction, which direction the stroke is going to go. So in this case, from going up to down doesn't make sense. So I will say, you know, I'll change the direction this way. So when I'm drawing with a art brush, so it should drag this way. And just say okay to this. So now we have a new brush, which is an art brush, which is right here. Okay. So if I want to, let's say, take my paintbrush tool, and this brush is already selected. So if I paint, so I can paint with that. Okay. Or if it's a square or a circle, I can highlight that and apply that brush to it. Okay. So in the case of art brush, your stroke is going to be stretched. Let's try it on this guy over here. Okay. So now if you notice that same artwork can be applied like brushes in a different way. Okay. So this is an example. Remember, we last time we learned how to use the gradient mesh. In my case, since I just did that a few minutes earlier, it is I didn't have time to do the gradient mesh. I just cheated and did you know, quick tracing in Illustrator. It came out okay, but the problem with if you're tracing quickly is, if I go and zoom in over here, it looks really nice. But the problem is if I go in here with the direct selection tool and highlight, okay, so now you can see that how many anchor points are there. Okay, there are thousands of them, even in the stem over here. So if I have to control, okay, or go and change something over here, so this is a very complex object. Okay, so but if you start doing those gradient mesh, you know, where you can set up your grids, how many columns and how many rows, so it becomes a little more easy to manage. Okay, so not just that, but also your file sizes will be smaller too. You know, sometimes these vector drawings can also be used in animations. Okay, so when you are animating something, you don't want to create something too complex, because each and every frame of your animation, you know, adds to the file size. Okay. In some cases, if your computer is not fast enough in animation, then you know, if you're trying to animate something as complex as this, so it can slow down the speed of the animation. Remember, these animations are just like Disney traditional animations were like 24 frames per second. Usually computer animations are between 30 to 60 frames per second. Okay, so in other words, if you are creating an animation for 1 second on a computer, so you may want to do like 30 frames for just 1 second for your animation to look smooth. Okay, so for that reason, you know, if you are creating something which has gradient in it and you have to create that illustration, so it's a good idea to use gradient mesh option rather than you know, doing a quick trace. All right, is it making sense so far?
Yeah.
Any questions about brushes? Now brushes are, guys, this is, I've explained that in a very easy way, but brushes can be quite complex, okay? And, there's an art of creating brushes, and if you know how to create patterns, brushes become a little easier to work with. Not just that, but let's look at one of the brushes over here, for example, this one. Okay. I'm not picking up a complex one, but let's just take this one over here. And if I double click on this brush, so it opens up these options. So now you can see that this brush, although it is simple, okay, but what you have to keep in mind is that if it was a round shape, there's no problem. But if you have corners, then you may have to define those corners. For example, this is the outer corner over here. This is the actual stroke or the body of the brush. And this is the inner corner. So there's an outer corner and then there's an inner corner. Okay, so that makes that brush, which you can use on objects which have corners, especially outer as well as the inner corners, and how it's going to be applied. Okay. So not just that outer inner corner, sometimes you may also have to add more styles to it, okay? So you can apply, so you can actually, these are separate artwork which you have to create, which is going to, complete the brush. Okay. Let me talk a little bit more about the label, and then if we have a little more time, so we'll create something more fun with the brush. Okay. Okay. Now in this case, now this is quite a complex thing going on, especially with a brush applied, and your artwork is going all the way out here. So how do you create that that guide for the die? So die cutting. Okay, for me, I think it will be easier if I just select everything from here. Okay, I'm going to copy it. Command C to copy. And this artwork, which is already selected over here, temporarily I'm going to lock it. Command 2 to lock. I don't want it to move from here. Then I'm going to do edit and then paste. Not just paste, but paste in front. Command F. So now the original is still back there, and I've just pasted this on top of everything. Okay, so now in this case, since I'm doing the die, I don't need any details, so I can just delete some of the writings, and I can delete the logo, I can delete this illustration, and can just let this go and this go. Okay, so everything else is there. This, although it is complex, I'm still going to keep it. Okay, so after selecting everything, I'm going to go to Object and choose Expand Appearance. Okay, so appearance has been expanded, and now everything has turned into individual vector shapes. Then I can go back to Object and then choose Expand. And I'll expand both fill and stroke. Say OK. Now, what I'm going to do is I am going to go and find my Pathfinder tools and choose combine. Okay. Now when I combine, so there were spaces in there, okay, so which didn't get filled up, okay, because that was a stroke around it and there was a gap, and Illustrator did not look at that. Okay. Also, this area over here is also transparent. You know, if we want to check if it's actually transparent area, what we can do is we can just pick up a different color. It's not the whole thing over here. I'll just select a color without selecting anything else, and just draw an object over here, Command Shift and left bracket to send it back. Now you can see that this area is transparent and this area over here is also transparent. So how can we fill those areas? Okay, so if I say Command D to, actually let's just delete that. You may have to do a pen drawing if this was something complex, but in my case I might just want to fill this with an ellipse tool over here. So by creating a circle, so in this case I'm not going to use the shift key, because shift key is going to make a perfect circles, but this is not a perfect circle. But I'm just going to move it a little bit here, over here. I'll have to be a little careful so I don't go too close to the fringes over there, and then probably we can just pull this down a little bit. Okay, so it covers this area, so that is fine. Then I can just grab my pen tool and create another object. Okay, so this one will be easy. So the only thing I have to make sure is that I cover everything inside over here. Okay, so now I closed it. Same thing goes over here. So if I know that this thing can be created with a rounded rectangle. Okay, but actually this should be fine for right now, so I don't have to do anything. So next thing I'm going to do is select everything over here, not this rectangle over here, everything in my sticker. I'm going to use Unite. So this becomes as one object. Okay, there is a little bit of area which was left over here. Okay, so if you want to fill that, there is another tool in Illustrator called the Blob Tool. Okay, so where you have your paintbrush tool, so if you select your Blob Tool, so in this case, Blob Tool can be a good choice to fill those gaps. So if there were any gaps which were, okay, so Blob Tool actually maintains the uh, the uh, the actual shape of your. Okay, anyway, so I'm not going to worry too much at this point. So I can do the details later on, but now we have an object, okay, but this object is exactly the size of our artwork back there. So in order to give it a little more bleeding room, So what I'll do is I'm going to add a stroke around it. Okay, so let's add a stroke just to show you that how the stroke looks like. I'm going to change the color, okay, and make the stroke larger. So let's see how many points I need to. Okay, so somewhere around there should be fine. But once again, what I'll do is I don't want to keep this as complex object with a fill and the stroke on it and all. So I just need to expand it. Object, expand. And expand what? Both strokes and fill. Say okay. Okay. And then you also need to combine. So I think I closed my Pathfinder panel, so I'll have to open it again. I think it is open somewhere. Where is it? Oh, it's hiding down here. So once again, I'm going to unite. So this becomes as one object. Let me undo this. So the strokes on these guys are giving me some issues. So that complex shape. So again, in this case, so I don't need to create a complex die over here. So I think it would have been a better choice if we just created a circle. Okay. Now, we are learning as we go. Hey, you know what? This is not going to work over here. So what can we do? So you may just have to create another circle to fill that area and just unite it. Actually, let me just undo this a few times because I don't like the stroke edges to be showing. Let me just try it one more time and see if object, expand one more time. Yeah, I think it did a little better job this time. Sometimes, when you are expanding these objects, if the object is a little complex, so it might you might have to do it like 2 or 3 times. I don't know why, but sometimes you do. Okay, so now if you are seeing some edges over here, you can clean that up. Okay, with the direct selection tool, you can select the point which you don't need, or if you want to move that point somewhere, just zoom in a little bit. Never be afraid to zoom in, okay, because that's how you can look at your artwork and see. Okay. Now, you see all these complex anchor points because there was a fringe, and when the print shop is going to create a die, they won't like that. Okay, they would rather have a nice plain line over here. So one of the things you can do is, let's look at another tool. You remember this pencil tool? There is pencil tool. There is another tool hiding down here called the smooth tool. So with the smooth tool, so you can come and draw. Okay, so now you can see that it smoothens your curve, and it can help eliminate a lot of these points. Okay, you don't even have to be accurate while using this tool, as long as you're just staying close to the edge over here. So just by doing this, so again, we remove a lot of the complexities which your print shop may not like. Okay, So it's a good idea. So when you're working on your logos and you know, if you create something and you end up having too many points, so just clean them up like this. Okay, so I can spend some time doing that, but right now, you know, I think this thing should work fine. So I need to unlock everything now. So Command Option 2 to unlock. Okay, and this shape which is sitting on top of everything, I'm going to select it, and I'm going to send it to the back. Command Shift left bracket. Okay, so as I'm doing this, so now I can see you know, some of the problems. But if, you know, if this sticker is going to be printed on a white paper, everything will turn out fine. Okay, if the paper color was different, then you may also have to fill these areas. Okay, but right now all I have to do is to change this object into a guide. So go to View, Guides, and choose Make Guides. Command 5. Okay, so here is your die cut guide. So when you are going to send this label to a print shop, so they will know. So you can say, hey, you know what, I have included the guides for you. This is where the guide will be created for this sticker. Okay, and they can print it on sticker papers, and these labels can be put on different bottles and so on. So, okay. So guys, does this give you a little bit of idea of what you are doing in this project? Plus, you have also learned a little more about making brushes. So give me a feedback.
Yeah, do those brushes also work for Photoshop? The same
No, no, these are vector brushes. They do not work for Photoshop, but you can create your drawings in Illustrator and copy and paste them in Photoshop if you want. But you know, brushes in Photoshop do not work like this, because those are not vector brushes, those are raster brushes made up of pixels. So, you know, one of the reasons why I use Illustrator is, you know, because these brushes are incredible and I can make anything into a brush. Okay. For example, let's just make another brush over here quickly. A very simple one, but you can see how fun that is. So here's a circle. Okay. And I can take my scissor tool and cut the circle from here, cut the circle from here, and delete this side. Okay, so this is like a half circle. I can select it and go to the brushes panel, take this guy and just drag it in here. And I'm just going to change it into an art brush. Say okay. Which direction? Okay, I'm going to change the direction going this way and see how it looks. Okay, so now we have a new brush over here. So if I grab my brush tool now, paintbrush tool, and zoom out a little bit, and draw with this brush so you can see how interesting strokes you can create. I'm not working with a stylus right now, so it can also work with your pen pressure and so on. And if you just make another of these brushes, this time I'm going to make it even smaller. Okay, and just change the color over here. Okay, so here is another half circle. Create another art brush. Do the same. Okay, so now we have another brush which is narrow. So now if, let's say that, I was playing with this logo over here. I was trying to create a logo for grandmas. So anyway, so I can also combine this, but let's just apply it to the letter G with this combined over here. Let's see how that looks. I think the brush is a little still larger. Okay. We do Command Z over here. How about if I just take this shape and make this larger, just for the demo purposes. Okay, and now if we can give this a stroke. Okay, so now if you notice that, it gives a really nice, the stroke is thicker over here and it becomes narrower over here. So it can create some really interesting effects. Okay, if I don't want any stroke on this guy, I can remove the stroke. So maybe this can have the same color, the letter S. So, when you're working on your projects, sometimes you have to make decisions on the fly as you are working and say, hey, you know what, let's try doing this. Let's try doing this. There's, you can keep having fun all the time. Okay. I don't know where this is coming from. But anyway, so interesting.
Very.
Okay. I'm thinking let me see if I remember how to do this. Let's create one little more complex brush, okay? So you guys, it's just the last day before spring break, so something for you to remember. I'm not even sure if it's going to work or not, but let's just make a brush. It's a circle. Let's make that circle yellow. I'll just use swatches over here. Make a copy of the circle. Just going to stretch it this way. Pen tool, anchor point tool. Make this into a corner point. Make the petal really bright pink. All right, and then remember we did this earlier in the class. So now I need to find the rotation tool, which is hiding right here. So with the rotation tool, so I'm going to change the point of rotation. Right now it is in the center of the petal over here, but I want it to. And if you notice that if you have your tool tip guides open, so if I bring my cursor in the center of this object, it's going to tell you now it's the center. So I can click over here. So that ensures that I have this right in the center. So now you can see that I can set up the point of rotation and oops, let's see what's going on. Oh, I don't have the whole thing selected. Okay, let's just do that again. Okay, so now you can see that I can rotate around. But if I press the Option key, you see the cursor changes, Option, double-headed arrow, that means it's going to make a copy. And if I also press the Shift key with it, it's going to lock it at 45-degree angle or 90-degree angle and so on, okay? So I'll just lock it over here. And then of course, I can duplicate what I've done, Command D, Command D, Command D, Command. Okay, so we have a nice looking flower over here. Make it a little smaller. Make it even smaller. So look at my document over here, how small that is. So okay, so if I paste it over here, so this can give me an idea how small I want this. So let's make it about this big. Okay, I can zoom in. And then I'm going to take my pen tool. Okay, so I just made a stroke, but since I had the fill color selected, so no problem. So I can just select this guy and say that, I just need a stroke on this, but the stroke needs to be green. Just choose this green. And this stem which I've created, remember it's just a stroke. For the purpose of if you're trying to make a brush out of it, it will be a good idea to just expand it. So if I go to Object and choose Expand both fill and stroke, say OK. Now this is a shape rather than a stroke. And then Command Shift left bracket, just take it behind. Okay. And okay, so let's also make a pot down here. No stroke. Rectangle tool. Let's make a rectangle over here. Make it a different brown, no stroke. I'm thinking how to do this. Okay, so a couple of ways to do this. Number one, if I grab my pen tool and with pen tool, with the add anchor point tool, so I can just add a point over here, add a point over here. And with the direct selection tool, select this point and shift select this point. Move these points down. And remember that anchor point tool. With anchor point tool, so you can come and smoothen the curve a little bit. Okay, and we'll make another square. Direct selection tool. Select this corner. Move it inwards. Okay. Give this a different color. No stroke. Command Shift, left bracket. Select everything. Command Shift, left bracket. Okay. So again, nothing complex over here. Okay, so three things going on over here. Let me see if I can just turn this whole thing into a brush. Okay, it will be a good idea to rotate this guy. Select selection tool, rotate it this way. Select everything. Open your brushes panel. And let's make it into a art brush. Okay, so the direction is fine this way. Okay, so if I use this brush now, so let's take the brush tool and we can see, how many parts we can create. Isn't it fun? Okay, so this is an art brush. I'm just going to stop here. And so, after spring break, brushes are actually quite complex. And we can create some complex pattern brushes with this too. So that comes later on. So any questions, guys?
Yeah, when will you upload this video?
Okay, this video should be up probably a little bit later today or by tomorrow morning.
Where is it up?
I will be sending you an email with the links. It will be on YouTube.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Actually, that's what's confusing me. Last time we got there was a link. I clicked on one of them and I did find a video, but the channel of it, Art Bug, it doesn't have any other videos. In fact, it says there's none of it, even though I'm playing your video.
Really?
Video.
I'll have to check that because this is the first time I'm using YouTube. So let me double check because I know those videos are up there. So yeah, you should be able to click on the link and open. So let me double check, and yes, I will be sending you all those links. So thank you for their feedback.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you. So we'll see what we can do with that, so we can solve the issue. All right, guys. So lecture is going to be short today. What you're working on is making the label. Okay. I would like you to also maybe make a pattern brush like we did over here and use it. It's up to you. I will give you 100% creative freedom how you want to design the logo. This is just one example. I would highly encourage you to go and Google product labels and see what other people have done. If you can find something really interesting, so try using that. What I need to see on that is one, illustration done with a gradient mesh and typography. And for bonus points, if you're using any custom brushes, if you have made any custom brush. Okay, so that will be bonus for you. Okay, so these are the things I will be looking in there. And of course, another bonus will be if you create a die guide for your label. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you have a question on the chat.
Okay, I need to see where my chat is now. Why I can't see my chat over here? Okay, just give me a minute, guys. So I think I might have closed something over here. Just before this class, there was an update for Zoom. I just did that. Oh, there it is now. Just popped up. Okay, that was weird. Okay. There's a lot going on over here, so I'm going to. Okay, so I answered the video question. Yeah, I'll check. What is because I know that I uploaded them and they are there, so I will be giving you the link. Question is, are we making vector graphic logos for the project, or it's any kind of an image? We are making vector logo. So anything which will be on the label, that will be scalable. How can I unlock after I lock? What does expand do? Okay, what expand does is that, if it is an object which has its own stroke, own fill color, so if you notice that the stroke itself is just a stroke, so it is not part of the object itself. Let me just share the screen with you so it will make a little more sense. So if you are working with a stroke, actually, let's just use the pen tool. Okay, so here's a pen tool stroke. Let's make it green or yellow, we can see. And I'm going to increase the point size. Okay, so if you look at the stroke, why did it disappear? Okay. If you look at this stroke, so this is your actual stroke, okay? And this is the thickness of the stroke. And if I also add a fill color over here, so let's add this So this is an open path, and this is the fill color, and this is your anchor point, and the fill is going to join. So this is an object which is a vector object created by Illustrator, but you can expand it even further. For example, the stroke over here can also be changed into a shape. This is not a shape yet. It is a stroke which you can manipulate, but you can go to Object and choose Expand. Okay, so what can I expand from here? We can expand both fill and or stroke, or we have a choice. If you just want to expand the stroke, you can. So once you do this, so if I say OK, now if you notice these anchor points over here, this is just like any other vector object. And if you notice that there is another path which is hiding here, I can delete that. It doesn't matter. So I can go in with the direct selection tool. Okay, let's just select this guy. Actually, it was part of this. Okay, so again, now this is, by expanding this turned into two shapes. The stroke, which was just a path or a line, it has turned into a shape. Okay, and then the fill also became a shape in itself. Does it answer the question or no? So when you expand, so basically what you're doing is you are making that object in a simple, turning it into a simple vector object. Okay, but if I have to edit this now and say that this stroke I want to make it smaller, okay, or narrower, I can't easily do that because it's not a object. This is an expanded object over here now. But I can still edit it, but then I will have to manually do that. Okay. So which is not fun because it will take a lot of time. So that's why I when I'm working, so I like to have my strokes, fills, but in the end, when I have to simplify my artwork, so I can just expand it. Expand will, number one, it's going to simplify your object. Second, it's going to make your the file size smaller too. And thirdly, as a designer, you will also have a little more control over your artwork. So you can have your own actual objects or artwork with strokes and everything. And when you are distributing your art to other people, then you may want to expand it, because you want to have that control over if for example if it was your client and they wanted any editing done, so rather than they doing the editing, they should come to you. Okay, so that's a little more control on your side, so you're not giving everything away. Sometimes clients will say, oh, that's fine, my niece is going to school and she's learning graphic design, so she can do it for so. But as a professional, so you need to have a little bit of control and see, hey, you know what, this is my artwork, and if you want some changes done, then come to me. Okay, guys, I think this will be all the lecture today. And if you don't have any other questions, let's see. Okay, How can I unlock after I lock? So when you lock anything, okay, so there are 2 or 3 different ways to work. Number one, if you're using Command 2 to lock, then you can press Command Option and then 2 to unlock. So you add the Option key in there. Command Option to unlock and Command 2 to lock, Command Option to unlock. Okay, so that's one way. Another thing is that if you look at that object in your layers panel, okay, so in your layers, if you find that layer, you will see a little padlock next to it if it is locked. So you can click on the padlock to unlock. So either way, you can work. Okay. Does this answer your question? Good. All right. So very good. So you know, keyboard shortcuts are good. You know, remember them. If you know somebody like me, so most of the time I'm using my keyboard shortcuts, and sometimes I forget, you know, where things are in the menu over here. But again, you know, it's more you are going to work with the software, so easier it's going to get. It's just like, you know, learning how to drive. More you drive, more expert you get. So very good. Okay, guys. So I wish you good luck and safety during your spring break. Please don't go out on the beaches.
I can't enjoy my spring break. I'll be home all day.
I know it's you know, it's these are strange times, so you'll have to be innovative. Okay, I don't know if you can have fun virtually or not, but you know, so you know, give me a feedback when you guys come back.
All right.
Okay, but the thing is, everyone needs to be safe. Okay.
Thank you. Thank
So thank you, guys, and I will see you after spring break, and
Yeah.
class will start at the same time. Okay. All right. So let's see. We've got 12 students today. Okay. All right, guys. So I'll let you go. Have fun. Enjoy some
Yeah.
time off. And in between, if you have any questions, I'll try to answer, but I won't promise. But
Sure.
I'll be home, so I can answer any questions if you have any. Okay.
All right.
All right, guys. Have fun.
Bye.
Bye bye.